of their masters.
As an adult, Wells stepped up to mix with the Eloi elite, but he was never allowed to forget his Morlock past.
I mean, he's someone who is called, I think, a horrid little man by Aldous Huxley, someone who is said to have no taste by E.M. Forster. And these are all kind of code words, in a sense, for someone who isn't quite one of us, as it were.
Armed only with a handful of matches, the time traveller ventures down one of the Morlock's tunnels. Striking another match, I saw I had entered a vast, arched cavern which stretched into utter darkness. Great shapes like big machines rose out of the dimness and cast grotesque black shadows in which dim spectral Morlocks sheltered from the glare. The faint halitus of freshly shed blood was in the air. To his horror, the time traveller eventually realizes just whose blood it is that he can smell. The bestial Morlocks are actually at the top of the food chain. The aristocratic Eloi are their cattle.
If you can climb up a evolutionary ladder, he suggests you can also fall back down it too, that you can revert.
But in the time machine, Wells went beyond the horrific reversal of the Victorian class system to the very end of life on Earth.
At the end of the time machine, he travels 30 million years ahead. And the Victorians at that time believed in 30 million years' time the sun would be very much cooler than it is now. That the sun was like a huge coal fire, basically. And since no more fuel was being added, it would burn down. The world grows cold, and there's not much left there except some giant crabs.
It's an extraordinarily bleak vision, and it's a vision in which questions of humanity and human culture have become irrelevant. There's no kind of redemption of the human soul, nor is it a despairing vision. It is simply austere and bleak.
He talks about the oncoming sunset, the oncoming cold, and the oncoming silence. He specifies the silence to say all the birds of the air have ceased to fly, and there are no sheep to bleat, and there's nothing. There's just this awful silence. The darkness grew apace. A cold wind began to blow in freshening gusts from the east, and the showering white flakes in the air increased in number. From the edge of the sea came a ripple and a whisper. Beyond these lifeless sounds, the world was silent. Silent. It would be hard to convey the stillness of it. All the sounds of man, the bleating of sheep, the cries of birds, the hum of insects, the stir that makes the whole background of our lives. All that was over.
He felt that humanity had reached a crucial stage. Either you keep the ascent of man going on, or you may have reached the top of the curve if you're not very careful, and once you've reached the top of the curve, the only way is down. Evolution doesn't necessarily mean progress. Evolution simply means evolution, change.
The time machine set the classic formula of much British science fiction to follow. A lone traveller or scientist. Far-fetched technology, only vaguely explained. Strangely evolved creatures. A chaotic universe. A bleak ending.
The British character, I mean the time traveller in the time machine, isn't out to conquer anybody. Yeah, he's there to observe. There's a sort of diffident, donnish, dilettante-ish, club room feel. It does boil down sometimes to the difference between the professional and the enthusiastic amateur.
The Time Lord is a direct descendant of Wells's anonymous Voyager, an Edwardian gentleman at large in time and space.
I suspect that's why originally Doctor Who dressed in a sort of Edwardian Victorian manner. The only literary image of the Time Traveller was the Time Traveller. Therefore, that was going to be their uniform, as opposed to, the smart outfits they had on Star Trek.
I want to see your faces when you try to explain away your behavior to a policeman.
Nevertheless, we're going to find one. Come on, Barbara.
What are you doing out there?
She is in there! Close the door, please! Barbara! What do you like?
The interior of the TARDIS is full of Victorian clutter, isn't it? It's very much like the Time Traveller's workshop, with umbrella stands, the hat stand in the corner, as well as all the gleaming white scientific apparatus.
You don't deserve any explanations. You pushed your way in here, uninvited and unwelcome.
I think we ought to leave.
Don't tell everybody about the ship now. Ship? Yes, ship. This doesn't roll along on wheels, you know.
You mean it moves? The TARDIS can go anywhere.
TARDIS? I don't understand you, Susan.
Well, I made up the name TARDIS from the initials, time and relative dimension in space. I thought you'd both understand when you saw the different dimensions inside from those outside.
But that's ridiculous.
In the very first series, Doctor Who travels back in time to the evolutionary origins of man. Meet the Morlocks.
You are trapped in your own lies, Cal.
Like the Time Traveller, Doctor Who struggles through a chaotic universe over which he has little control.
Come from your fuses, I saw it today. I have no matches. I cannot make fire.
People die, things go wrong, there are battles which can't be won. Wells's tale of time travel caught the popular imagination from the beginning, and the critics admired its bold take on Darwin's ideas. Wells was hailed by the literary elite.
You have this moment in which, very weirdly for us, Henry James can write to H.G. Wells and say, I'd love to collaborate, I really want to write something with you. I think this is extraordinary. And Joseph Conrad can write to H.G. Wells and say, you are the great realist of the fantastic. And he was hugely admired by all of these very high cultural people.
Wells adored the praise and the money. He kept writing his scientific romances. Novels like The Island of Dr. Moreau and The Invisible Man. And then he returned once more to contemplate the cruel nature of the evolutionary process and create another great staple of science fiction, the alien invader. As in The Time Machine, with its homely settings and its bicycle-esque machine, Wells drew directly on his own time for inspiration. In 1897, London celebrated Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, an occasion filled with imperial pomp. But Wells, of course, saw the flip side of the story.
The story of the War of the Worlds goes that he and his brother were out walking one day discussing what had happened to the natives of Tasmania, who had been exterminated by European colonists. And Wells sort of looked up in the sky and said, well, suppose it were to happen to us, suppose someone were to land here and colonise us and exterminate us in that sort of way.
The idea that here at the heart of the mightiest empire the world has ever known, that this vastly technologically superior race can turn up and just lay waste to everything.
If you think in evolutionary terms, you're never going to be at the top. There's always the potential, the possibility that there are higher beings which will treat us like we treated the Tasmanians.